Well, you may have noticed that I have a friend, and that's because we are looking at how the switcher, which in this case is an OC GoStream kit, it's an all-in-one. You can see the multi-view up here from the switcher and all the connections are in the back. How this is connected to the computer, and in this case, the computer is running OBS, and I have a Zoom meeting running. Kind of a placeholder, but we'll get to that. So this switcher is going into the computer as a webcam via USB-C, which is connected in back, and I've made one change to the default settings here. If you go into the menu settings here and go down to settings and then down to output source, I have changed the third option down to preview. And what that does is whatever is selected on this lower row here of green buttons, that is what's going out the USB-C to the input here in OBS. So if I change it to, let's see, I can change it to that camera if I want. So whatever's on this side is what's going to OBS. It'll become apparent later why I've set it up that way. So there's a program output here, which could be streaming to any streaming source, basically. This OBS also has a different streaming source, and we are using the virtual camera on OBS to feed a Zoom meeting. We'll bring that up here. So I have a little Zoom meeting, and the camera setting here is the OBS virtual camera. So if I turn that on, whatever is coming out of OBS here is going to the webcam for the Zoom meeting. I'm going to turn this camera off because we don't actually need to see our output on the Zoom meeting. We're pretending that's somebody else coming in, and I'll show you why here. So we have our input already. It says ATEM Pro, but I've already changed this device input to GoStream. That's this guy again as the webcam. And now we're going to start adding some scenes. So I'm going to add a Zoom scene in OBS. Zoom. And we're going to add a source to that, which is window capture. Zoom window. And then in the window selection box here, I'm going to go to Zoom meeting, and that shows us the Zoom meeting window. But as you can see, it doesn't show the camera. So we have to play around here with the capture method. I'm going to set it to Windows 10, and there, now it's working. But you also notice that it's not really the right size, and that's because the window itself is small. So I can, if I wish, adjust the size of the window, which is not a bad idea because it's going to be pretty low res anyway. So there's as big as the window can be without me being able to click on it. And now you can see that that's almost filling up the screen. And I can get the controls along the bottom if I want, but I can also take this opportunity to hide those and pretty much be looking at just the image. Move it off to the side. I can see I've got a couple of pixels on either side, so I'll just go ahead and widen that out. Maybe I'll hide the name at the bottom too, so it's not quite as obvious that it's Zoom. So if I go back to Zoom and I switch the camera to the web camera here, I can turn that on and you can see here what the framing actually is. You can see why we don't use the webcam. So we'll go ahead and turn that off because that image isn't useful. Go back to OBS. So now we have a Zoom scene. Let's add another scene here. And we're going to call this split. And we're going to bring in our scene. We'll bring in our input. I'm going to go ahead and hold Alt and crop this to half a screen, basically. Move that off to the side, leaving a blank screen here. A blank space, I should say, here. I already have blank spaces top and bottom because this is set in a slightly unusual format. This looks like it's a little wider, so we'll go ahead and crop that in a little bit more. And here as well. There we go. Now we'll add another scene. In this case, it's going to be the other scene zoom. We'll bring that in. So here's our zoom window. Again, it's supposed to be my face. It's supposed to be somebody else coming in. We go ahead and make that half a screen. You can see here the black bars don't really match up, so I can shrink that a bit. You can use the arrow keys as well and match up the size of the image. Move that off to the side. So we need a little bit of black border on that side. Now the images match up, and it's apparent to me that my face here is still too wide. So we'll go ahead and shrink that down again. So now we have two roughly equal images. So this could be doing an interview with somebody coming in via Zoom. And in OBS, I can record it by hitting the record button here. So I have myself as the interviewer, the person coming in via Zoom as the interviewee, and depending on what I want to see, I can look at myself, I can look at them, or I can look at the split view. Now, if you're also working with them and you want to show them something, you could have that something coming into the Ghost Stream, and indeed I already do. If you look at the Ghost Stream here, channel 4 is the Zoom output. So if I go to the Zoom window here, I can select that source and set it. Let's see, there's full screen projector source, sent it to the Ghost Stream. And now this source will always go out the HDMI of the PC into channel 4 of the Ghost Stream. So if the Ghost Stream is sending a stream to someone else, if I really want to, I can send the Zoom participant source to them. But now you see it doesn't have the cropping that we did. So I'm going to go ahead and look at the windows here. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that projector. And instead of projecting the source, I'm going to project the scene. So I right click on the scene over here, full screen projector, send it to the Ghost Stream, and now the Ghost Stream has the same cropping as I've set up in OBS. Now I don't have to just send the source or the scene, so let me go ahead and get rid of that projector. Now, if I right click on a blank space here, now I'm sending the entire output of OBS to channel 4 on the switcher. So full screen projector, Ghost Stream, and now whichever scene I have selected as the output in OBS is going to the output on the switcher. Why do we do all this? It's just an example, but it's showing how between the switcher and OBS you can send several different video mixes to several different sources. So for example, you could have a sister studio somewhere else in the country. You can have a presentation happening over here and sending it to another studio over there. It kind of replicates the ability for someone to sit down at NPR in Boston and appear on an interview in San Francisco. You can do that with hardware that you can buy for a few $100s using free software. So that's a quick look at how the switcher and OBS can kind of interact with each other via the HDMI output of projectors in OBS and preview output from the switcher. There's a few other ways to configure it as well. We'll get into those later. But thanks for coming along for the ride, and we'll see you next time.